Today we're going to look at the 6 signs that your ex is over you for good. But if you still think that you have a chance with your ex, I've got great news for you. I've put together a special quiz tool on my website, www.exboyfriendrecovery.com, that's designed to answer what kind of chance you have of getting an ex back in your particular circumstances. So if you're interested in taking this quiz, all you have to do is simply look in the description link below this YouTube video and click on it. It is that simple. All right, now without further ado, let's get to those 6 signs that your ex is over you for good. Sign number 1, permanent behavior changes. Now, what I tend to find when people go through breakups is there are quite a few behavioral changes. For example, all of a sudden where you and your ex were talking every single day, you're not talking anymore. And spying on your ex on Facebook. Maybe they liked your photos anytime you put a new photo out, but all of a sudden, because of the breakup, they're no longer doing things like that. As you get some distance through the breakup, you'll kind of notice a pendulum swing when it comes to behavioral changes. 1 minute, for example, your ex will be liking your Facebook photos, and the next minute they won't be liking your Facebook photos. They'll often swing from doing it and not doing it, changing the behavior and not changing the behavior. What you need to look out for with exes who are over you for good are permanent behavioral changes. In other words, if you used to post photos and they used to like all the photos and they never liked a photo ever again after the breakup, not a good sign. But you're not going to just do that with something as simplistic as photos. You're going to do it from looking at their entire behavior. Things like how often they used to talk to you, what they used to do on Facebook, how they used to communicate with your friends. If you start noticing those behavior changes are permanent, meaning they do not go back to the way they used to be doing things, even a subtle go back is okay. That is typically normal in circumstances where your ex still is holding on some lingering feelings. If you're in a situation where they're not doing that, not a good sign. Sign number 2, ignoring you for 66 days in a row. Have you ever thought and wondered to yourself how long it takes to make or break a habit? A simple search on Google might tell you that it takes something like 21 days to break a habit, but actually that's entirely wrong. Research has suggested that in 66 days you can either form or break a habit. So why is this relevant? How does it work for a sign that your ex is over you? Well, typically speaking, if you're not talking with your ex, it's kind of normal. Oftentimes we recommend to our clients to do something like a no contact rule. But what's not okay is if you attempt to reach out to them and they ignore you. If they ignore you for 66 days in a row, that means they have gotten out of the habit of talking to you. If you ignore them or they ignore you for 30 days in a row or 35 days in a row, technically speaking, that's still within that 66-day range where it's kind of okay. They can still become obsessed and addicted to talking to you. But after 66 days, things kind of don't look great. So when was the last time that you spoke with your ex? If it was within the 66-day time frame, you should be okay. If it was not within that 66-day time frame, not a good thing. Sign number 3, they have been with someone for longer than 8 months. A few months ago, I did a video called Signs Your Ex Is Gone for Good. Very, very similar to this one. And in it, I explored this idea of exes moving on and how sometimes it is your greatest fear. But one thing I was looking at was, when do breakups typically tend to happen in rebound relationships? And in that video, I concluded that anywhere between the month 4 mark and month 7 mark tends to be where rebound relationships begin to fail. But it stands to reason that if a new relationship that your ex has entered into with someone else lasts for longer than 8 months, it's beginning to get pretty serious. And it's not a good sign for them feeling any kind of romantic feelings towards you. In other words, it is a sign that your ex may potentially be over you for good. Sign number 4. Your ex takes all of their things back. We all know that item exchanges after a breakup are one of the sort of stereotypical interactions that you're bound to have with your ex. Now, what we typically find with men or women who are still having some lingering feelings about the relationship with their ex is that they'll tend to not give all of your things back or get all of their things back. They'll leave something in your possession or have something in your possession that forces another interaction. It's a motivated ploy. Now, what tends to not be really good, and I will admit this is kind of an iffy thing as for, hey, yeah, they're over you for good, but it is a sign that I want you to keep an eye out for, is if they take all of their things back and give you all of your things back to where they're basically wiping the slate clean with you. There's no sort of motivated ploy on their part for another interaction where they can sort of exchange items with you. Not a good sign. Sign number 5, shallow conversations. Now, we all like to dream that the conversations that we have with our ex are going to be very in-depth and have a lot of depth to them, but not all conversations tend to be like that. In fact, when you're looking at situations where an ex is just kind of over it, doesn't want to deal with you anymore, doesn't want a relationship with you anymore, you'll find that shallow conversations become consistent. So what is a shallow conversation? Well, quite simply, it's when you're texting your ex and they're giving you those one-word responses, or you just kind of sense that they're not into the conversation. They're not responding to you quickly. Sometimes they don't respond to you at all. And sometimes they're just responding with the generic responses that is expected of them. Sign number 6, their words and actions align. I am a big believer in this idea of words and actions aligning. In other words, when someone says, I'm over you, or I don't love you anymore, or it's not you, it's me, that doesn't really mean much to me. At least, especially when you're looking at the clients that I work with. What matters more to me is actions. What does someone do as opposed to what do they say? I can't tell you how many women I've helped get back with their ex-boyfriends who have literally had their ex-boyfriend say, I don't love you anymore. This isn't for me. You need to move on. Only to have them come back a few months later saying, I didn't really mean that. What matters most, in my opinion, are always a person's actions, what they do. So if you have an ex who has said any one of those things, I don't love you anymore, I don't want you anymore, move on, this isn't for me. If their actions align with that over the course of 66 days to 90 days, that's usually not a great sign. Now, sometimes it can take longer to get an ex back. In fact, we find that our minimum client can typically see results within 3 months. That's 90 days if things are going well. Sometimes it can take as long as a year to see results. So keep that in mind. Always look at a person's actions. If their words and actions do not align, their actions tend to tell the story of what they're really thinking. Hey, once again, thank you so much for getting to the end of this video. Again, if you still think you might have a chance of getting your ex back, the best and fastest way that you can find an answer to that question is by taking our Ex Recovery Chances quiz so that we can tell you what kind of chance you have of getting your ex back. Again, taking the quiz is super easy. Just look in that description link below and click on it. It is that simple. And if you have any questions or comments or things that you would like to add to the video, like, hey, Chris, you missed this sign, use the comments section below and tell me. I love interacting with you guys. I'll see you guys next time.